The crisp white of the wedding dress still haunted my thoughts, a stark, agonizing contrast to the churning acid in my gut. Just 2 weeks. That's how long my forever lasted before it spectacularly imploded. I'm Alex, 32, a structural engineer whose world, built on precision and logic, shattered into a million pieces the moment I caught Sarah, my wife of a mere fortnight, in the arms of her ex-boyfriend Mark. We still had unopened wedding gifts stacked in our living room, untouched symbols of a future incinerated before it even truly began. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was an act of arson on the very foundations of my existence. How did I get here? How could the woman I vowed to spend my life with obliterate everything we shared so swiftly, so ruthlessly? The answers, when they finally came, would leave her speechless and me forever changed. Our story, before the inferno, had been one of serene beauty, like a perfectly engineered bridge, solid and graceful. I'm Alex, a structural engineer, my life tethered to blueprints, calculations, and the unwavering laws of physics. For 8 years, I'd poured myself into designing skyscrapers and commercial complexes, finding a profound satisfaction in seeing tangible structures rise from mere concepts. My work demanded precision, demanded trust in the materials, and absolute confidence in the foundations. Oh, the irony! Sarah, my Sarah, was everything vibrant and alive. At 30, she was a marine biologist, dedicating her life to the silent, majestic depths of the ocean. Her passion wasn't just a career, it was a part of her soul, radiating in every conversation. We met in the most unexpected way. I was overseeing a construction site near a coastal reserve when we encountered an injured hawk. My site manager called the local wildlife center, and Sarah showed up, looking entirely out of place amidst the hard hats and steel beams, her boots caked in mud, her auburn hair a delightful mess. But the moment she knelt beside that injured bird, her hands moving with an almost mystical blend of confidence and tenderness, I was utterly captivated. She knew exactly what she was doing. We started talking while she treated the hawk, and I learned she had just moved to the city. I, in my most charmingly awkward engineer fashion, offered to show her around. To my surprise, she said yes. That yes bloomed into dinner, then more dates, then an undeniable, intoxicating connection. 3 years we built our life together, brick by emotional brick. We shared dreams, anxieties, late-night talks about the universe, and early morning jogs along the beach. Our love felt like an unbreakable current, pulling us deeper into a shared future. She was brilliant, witty, fiercely compassionate, and seemed to mirror every aspiration I held. The proposal, on a remote stretch of beach at sunset, was a moment I replayed endlessly in my mind. Her tearful yes, the ocean roaring its approval, the diamond glinting like a promise. Our wedding was everything we dreamed of, intimate, joyful, surrounded by our closest friends and family, a declaration of a love I believed would last beyond the stars. I saw her walking down the aisle, sunlight catching the intricate lace of her dress, and knew, with every fiber of my being, that this was my forever. The aftermath of the honeymoon was a blissful haze. We were settling into our shared life, planning renovations, talking about future adventures. We had the whole world at our fingertips. Then came the unsettling ripple, the first tremor in my carefully constructed reality. A cryptic text from Jake, Sarah's brother and my best friend since college, pinged on my phone late one Tuesday. "Hey man, are you free to chat? Bit concerned about something." Jake was usually direct, so the vague message set an immediate unease in my stomach. When I called him back, his voice was laced with an unfamiliar caution. "Alex, I saw Sarah today. She was at the Blue Door coffee shop with Mark." My heart did a strange, cold flip. Mark, Sarah's ex. He was a vague shadow from her past, a college romance that had fizzled out long before I met her. I'd seen a photo once, heard his name mentioned fleetingly, always with an air of dismissiveness. "Okay?" I prompted, trying to sound nonchalant, though a prickle of alarm ran down my spine. "They were pretty close, Alex, like too close for just catching up." Jake's hesitation spoke volumes. "Look, maybe I'm overreacting, but her arm was linked through his and they were laughing. really intimately, not like friends. A cold dread began to coil in my gut. I told myself it was nothing, just friends catching up. Sarah was a friendly person. But Jake's tone, his genuine concern, chipped away at my denial. I tried to dismiss it, to focus on the perfect image of Sarah walking down the aisle, her eyes shining with love for me. But the image fractured. Over the next few days, a gnawing suspicion festered. Sarah was suddenly busier than usual, her phone always on silent or face down. She'd go for runs that lasted longer, or grab coffee with friends I'd never met. Each unexplained absence, each evasive answer, added another layer of concrete to the growing wall of dread. The dam finally broke on a Friday evening. I was home early from work trying to surprise Sarah. The house was quiet, too quiet. I heard muffled voices from our bedroom, a soft, hushed murmur. My heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against my ribs. As I pushed open the door, the scene that greeted me froze the blood in my veins. Sarah was there, in our bed, with Mark. Her arms were wrapped around him, their faces inches apart, their laughter dissolving into a shocked silence as the door creaked open. For a moment the world stopped spinning, the air left my lungs, all the light, all the hope, drained from the room, replaced by a searing, white-hot rage that threatened to consume me. Sarah's eyes, wide with terror, met mine. Mark, scrambling to pull the sheet up, looked like a deer caught in headlights. The wedding photos on the dresser, the half-unpacked gifts by the door, they screamed at me, mocking the vows we had just exchanged. My voice, when it finally came, was a raw whisper, barely audible above the roaring in my ears. Sarah. It wasn't a question or an accusation. It was a statement of utter, profound devastation. She flinched, pulling away from Mark as if burned. Tears immediately welled in her eyes, a desperate, pathetic attempt at remorse. "Alex, please, it's not what it looks like. I can explain." But there was nothing to explain. The scene was laid bare, unambiguous, disgusting. I stared at her, the woman I had pledged my life to, the woman who had just shattered every single promise, every single dream. The image of her walking down the aisle, radiant and pure, twisted into a grotesque parody. My mind reeled, trying to reconcile the woman before me with the woman I loved. The logic circuits in my brain, usually so precise, had short-circuited. There was no structure to hold this, no foundation strong enough. The betrayal was absolute, raw, and unforgivable. My world wasn't just fractured, it had disintegrated into dust. My world wasn't just fractured, it had disintegrated into dust. The air in the room was thick with Sarah's desperate pleas, her choked sobs, but her words were meaningless, a cacophony against the deafening silence of my shattered trust. "Alex, please, I can explain." "It was a mistake, a terrible mistake," she choked out, reaching for me, her hand brushing my arm. I flinched as if burned, stepping back, my eyes fixed on Mark, who now looked like a terrified child. "Get out," I said, my voice barely a whisper, yet resonating with a chilling finality that even surprised me. Mark, clearly picking up on the lethal edge in my tone, scrambled out of bed, pulling on his clothes with frantic speed. He mumbled something, an apology, an excuse, but I didn't hear it. I didn't care. My gaze was locked on Sarah, on the woman who had effortlessly, brutally, torn my life apart. Mark, sensing the danger, darted out of the room, leaving us alone in the debris of our life. "How could you—" The words tore from my throat, raw and ragged. 2 weeks, Sarah. 2 weeks, our vows, our wedding, everything we built. Was it all a lie? She collapsed onto the edge of the bed, tears streaming down her face, her body racked with sobs. "No, Alex, no. I love you. I swear, I love you. Mark, he just showed up at a friend's party last weekend. I had a few drinks. I was stupid. He was there and, I don't know, old feelings resurfaced, just for a moment. It meant nothing. Please believe me." Each word was a fresh wound, a new layer of pain. "A moment?" I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "A moment that landed you in our bed with him while our wedding gifts are still downstairs? That's not a moment, Sarah. That's a choice. A deliberate, calculated choice to betray everything we are. My voice was rising now, trembling with unshed tears and uncontrollable fury. The logical part of my brain, the engineer that demanded facts and clear solutions, was screaming in protest. This was an unsolvable equation. This was a structure with a faulty foundation, destined to collapse. I couldn't stay there, not another second. The air was suffocating, thick with her lies and my anguish. I turned, blindly walking out of the bedroom, out of the house that was no longer a home but a monument to my broken heart. I drove, aimlessly at first, the city lights blurring through my tear-filled eyes. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away. I called Jake, my best friend, her brother, the only person I felt I could confide in. His voice, when he picked up, was calm, reassuring, a steady anchor in my storm. "Alex? What's wrong, man? You sound awful." I choked out the story, disjointed and raw, the words tumbling out in a torrent of pain and disbelief. Jake listened, silently at first, then a sharp intake of breath. "She did what?" he whispered, disbelief lacing his tone. "I'm coming over. Where are you?" I gave him my location, a dimly lit park bench where I'd pulled over, unable to drive any further. Jake arrived within minutes, his face a mixture of shock, anger, and concern. He didn't say much, just sat beside me, offering a comforting presence. "I'm so sorry, man," he finally said, his voice heavy. "I had a bad feeling when I saw them, but I never thought. She's my sister, but what she did is inexcusable." His solidarity, despite his familial tie to Sarah, was a lifeline. He stayed with me for hours, until the first hint of dawn, offering a silent, steady support that kept me from completely unraveling. He didn't try to fix it, didn't offer platitudes, he just was there. The next few days were a blur of raw emotion. I moved into a temporary apartment, unable to stomach being in the house that had become a torture chamber. Sarah called incessantly, texted, sent emails, each one begging for forgiveness, pleading for another chance. It was just a kiss, she'd write, then a moment of weakness, then "I love you, please come home." The narrative shifted, twisted, becoming more desperate, but the core truth remained. She had betrayed me, profoundly and irrevocably. My emotional foundation, once so solid, had cracked. The structural engineer in me knew that some cracks were irreparable. Jake continued to be my rock. He cooked for me, listened to my endless cycles of anger and grief, and pulled me out of my apartment when I wanted nothing more than to curl into a ball. "You gotta move, man," he'd insist, dragging me to the gym. "Even if you just walk on the treadmill, get your blood pumping. Focus on yourself. You'll thank me later." His words, simple as they were, resonated. I was a mess, physically and emotionally. The grief had stolen my appetite, my sleep, my energy. Reluctantly, I started going to the gym. At first it was just walking, then light weights, then pushing myself harder. The physical exertion became a release, a way to channel the raging inferno of my pain into something constructive. Each rep, each bead of sweat felt like I was wringing out the bitterness, replacing it with something tangible, something I could control. The gym wasn't just about building muscle, it was about rebuilding my resolve. Slowly, painstakingly, I started to feel a flicker of control return. The anger was still there, a constant hum beneath the surface, but it was no longer consuming me entirely. One evening, about a month after the incident, Sarah appeared at my temporary apartment, her face pale and drawn, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked a shadow of her former self. "Alex, please," she begged, her voice hoarse. "I need you to talk to me. I need you to understand. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can work through this. Please, just don't give up on us." I looked at her, truly looked at her, and for the first time I felt a strange detachment. The raw, burning anger had receded, replaced by a cold, desolate clarity. The woman standing before me, broken and desperate, was no longer the radiant bride I had loved. She was a stranger, a symbol of profound betrayal. "There is no us, Sarah," I said, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. "You destroyed us 2 weeks after we said I do. That's not something you can fix with therapy or apologies. Trust, once broken, is shattered. You can try to glue the pieces back together, but it will never be whole again. It will always be fractured." Her eyes widened, a fresh wave of tears spilling over. "But I love you. I truly do, Alex." "You don't break someone you love like that," I replied, my gaze unwavering. "You don't betray their trust so completely, so easily. Whatever love you felt, it wasn't enough. Not for me. Not for a lifelong commitment." The final confrontation happened at the airport. I had booked a flight, impulsively, to visit my brother across the country, needing to escape the city, needing to breathe air that didn't feel tainted. Sarah somehow found out about my flight. She was there, standing by the security checkpoint, a desperate figure amidst the bustling crowd. Her eyes were red-rimmed and pleading, her hair disheveled, clearly having cried for hours. She looked utterly lost. "Please, Alex," she choked out, her voice raw. "Don't go, don't leave me. It was a mistake, I swear. I love you, I swear." She reached for me, her hand outstretched, desperate to cling to something, anything, but the words tasted like ash. My voice, though quiet, cut through the noise of the bustling terminal, precise and firm, like a surgeon's scalpel. "Sarah," I said, my gaze unwavering, "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. But it won't be with me." Her face crumpled, tears streaming down her face, her body shaking with silent sobs. She tried to say something, anything, but no words came out. She was left speechless, broken. I turned and walked away, leaving behind the shattered fragments of a dream, stepping through the security gates, not looking back. The weight on my shoulders, the invisible burden of a marriage that never truly began, lifted, just a fraction. It was the first breath of truly clean air I'd taken in weeks. Walking through those security gates, leaving Sarah and the wreckage of our life behind, felt like shedding a suffocating skin. The flight across the country was a blur, my mind numb, my body exhausted. My brother Liam met me at the airport, his embrace firm and silent, understanding that words weren't needed. For a week I stayed with him, finding solace in his quiet company and the simple rhythm of his life. We hiked, we cooked, we talked about everything and nothing. The emotional storm still raged within me, but Liam's presence was like a steadying hand on the wheel. He didn't offer solutions, just space to breathe, and a reminder that I wasn't alone. Returning to my apartment, the temporary one, felt different. The air no longer tasted of Sarah's desperation. The constant intrusive thoughts of her betrayal, while still present, had lost some of their immediate sting. Jake was still my steadfast companion, pushing me to maintain the gym routine. "You're making progress, man," he'd say, watching me lift. "Not just with the weights, you're getting your focus back." And he was right. My anger, once a consuming wildfire, was slowly transforming into a focused, simmering energy. I channeled it into my work, burying myself in complex blueprints and calculations. The precision of engineering became a balm for the chaos in my personal life. Each successful design, each problem solved on paper, was a small victory against the overwhelming sense of loss. Then, about 2 months after the airport confrontation, the email landed in my inbox, unassuming yet life-altering. It was from the CEO of my company, a man I rarely interacted with directly. The subject line read, "Project Lead, Dubai." I opened it, my heart doing a strange flutter. The email detailed an unprecedented opportunity. My company had secured the contract for a massive, multi-billion-dollar skyscraper project in downtown Dubai, a towering symbol of modern architecture and engineering prowess. They were looking for a lead structural engineer, someone with a proven track record of innovative design and meticulous execution. My name, it said, had come up in discussions. The offer was staggering, a significant promotion, an incredible salary, and the chance to live and work in one of the most dynamic cities in the world for the next 3 years. I read it twice, 3 times, letting the words sink in. Dubai. A colossal project. It was a chance to escape, to reinvent, to truly breathe again, thousands of miles away from the ghost of a failed marriage. It was a blank slate, a new beginning. My gut reaction was an overwhelming yes, but the logical engineer in me also knew the immense challenge it presented. This wasn't just a job, it was a relocation, a complete upheaval of my life. I called Jake immediately. His reaction was pure enthusiasm. "Dubai, Alex, that's incredible. You have to take it. This is exactly what you need, a complete fresh start. New city, new people, new everything. Get out of this place." His unwavering support sealed it. He didn't hesitate, didn't question the practicality or the distance. He knew, instinctively, that this was my lifeline. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork, packing, and goodbyes. I sold the house that Sarah and I had bought, the one filled with so many memories that now felt tainted. The process was surprisingly cathartic, each signed document a step further away from the past. I didn't contact Sarah. She made a few more attempts to reach me through text and email, but I had erected an emotional wall she couldn't breach. My focus was forward, on the towering steel and glass of my future. Landing in Dubai was an assault on the senses in the best possible way. The sheer scale of the city, the glittering skyline piercing the desert sky, the vibrant energy humming beneath it all, it was intoxicating. The air was warm, carrying the faint scent of spices and opportunity. My new apartment, a sleek modern marvel on the 70th floor of a downtown residential tower, was insane. The panoramic views stretched for miles, revealing a mesmerizing tapestry of futuristic architecture and endless desert. My favorite feature? The private infinity pool on the balcony, its crystal-clear water mirroring the sky, offering a sanctuary of peace high above the bustling city. It wasn't just an apartment, it was a symbol of new beginnings, a testament to my resilience. It felt like I had not only escaped, but truly landed on solid ground. The initial weeks were a whirlwind of professional immersion. The project was even grander than I had imagined, presenting complex challenges that ignited my passion for engineering. Long hours in the office were offset by evenings spent exploring the city, its diverse cultures, its exquisite cuisine. I met colleagues from all corners of the globe, brilliant minds drawn by the sheer ambition of Dubai. My social circle slowly began to expand, filled with driven, positive individuals who knew nothing of my past heartbreak. It was liberating. One evening, after a particularly demanding day, I found myself unwinding at a rooftop lounge, the city lights twinkling beneath me like scattered diamonds. A colleague introduced me to Amelia, a senior architect involved in a complementary project downtown. She was captivating, with a sharp, witty mind that matched her striking appearance. Her eyes, a warm hazel, sparkled with intelligence and genuine curiosity. We talked about architecture, about the challenges of designing for such an ambitious city, and then, effortlessly, about life, travel, and our shared passion for innovation. She was refreshingly honest, direct, and incredibly intelligent. There was no pretense, no games. For the first time in months, I felt a genuine, unforced connection with another person that wasn't rooted in past trauma. We talked for hours, the conversation flowing easily, punctuated by laughter. As the evening wound down, I found myself, almost instinctively, asking her to dinner. Her smile, bright and genuine, was an immediate yes. It wasn't a desperate plea for connection or a rebound fueled by loneliness. It was a conscious decision, a gentle opening of my heart, testing the waters of possibility. And it felt good, really good. This new life, this new city, was beginning to feel like home. The emptiness that had once consumed me was slowly, beautifully, being filled, not with frantic attempts to forget, but with quiet, genuine joy. I was building something new, stronger, and entirely my own. I was building something new, stronger, and entirely my own. The initial weeks in Dubai had transformed from a blur of professional obligations into a vibrant mosaic of new experiences, new friendships, and a burgeoning sense of personal peace. My apartment overlooking the cityscape wasn't just a dwelling, it was a sanctuary. A literal high-rise haven where the anxieties of my past seemed to shrink with every floor. The gym, once a place of forced therapy, had become an integral part of my daily routine, a source of genuine strength and mental clarity. I felt lighter, freer, more me than I had in years. Amelia and I had our first dinner, and it was everything I hoped for and more. She was as intelligent and witty as she was beautiful, and our conversation flowed effortlessly from the intricacies of structural design to shared interests in travel, art, and even a surprising mutual love for obscure jazz music. There was an ease with her, a natural connection that felt refreshingly genuine, devoid of the complex emotional baggage that had defined my last relationship. After a few more dates, a comfortable rhythm settled between us. We explored Dubai's hidden gems, shared quiet dinners, and debated the merits of various architectural styles with an almost childish glee. It was an exhilarating feeling, discovering that my heart, once so scarred, could still open, carefully, to the possibility of something new and wonderful. Life, it seemed, was finally putting itself back together, piece by careful piece. And then, as often happens when you least expect it, the echoes of the past began to trickle back, not with the force of a tidal wave, but with the quiet inevitability of distant ripples. One lazy Saturday morning, while sipping coffee on my balcony and gazing at the vast expanse of the city below, my phone buzzed with a text from Jake. He was still my confidant, my anchor, and our calls and messages were a regular feature of my new life. This time, however, his message carried a different tone, a hint of something he knew I needed to hear, or perhaps dreaded. "Hey man, just thought you should know," his text read. "Sarah's actually sticking with the therapy. Moved back in with her parents, quit her job at the Marine Research Center." I paused, coffee cup halfway to my lips. My initial reaction was a strange mix of emotions. Surprise, certainly. A flicker of something that might have been relief? Or perhaps just an acknowledgement that the destructive path she was on might finally be veering towards some kind of self-correction. "Quit her job?" I typed back, curious despite myself. That job had been her entire identity. Jake's response was quick. "Yeah, apparently too much drama with Olivia still hanging around. Said she needs to work on herself. Good for her, I guess. Taking it seriously this time, from what her mom says." Olivia. The name brought a brief, unpleasant flash of memory. She was a colleague of Sarah's at the research center, and from what I vaguely remembered, she had been a rather unpleasant piece of work, known for her passive-aggressive comments and a general sense of entitlement. In the immediate aftermath of Sarah's betrayal, Jake had mentioned Olivia being a sort of enabler, or at least someone who had known about Sarah's slipping up and done nothing to stop it, even seeming to revel in the chaos. The details were hazy, lost in my own pain, but the general impression was of someone utterly devoid of empathy. Hearing her name now, associated with drama, wasn't surprising. Then, a few more texts came from Jake, detailing other fragments of news, bits and pieces from the lives I'd left behind. "Oh, and Ryan," Jake continued, referencing Mark's real name from the original story. "Last I heard, he's engaged to that nurse he met a few months ago. It's only been like 2 months, but sure, that'll work out great, I'm sure." Jake's dry sarcasm was palpable, even through text. I snorted, a genuine laugh escaping me. Mark, moving on that quickly, some people really never changed. It was a fleeting thought, a distant echo of a time when Mark's actions would have sent a fresh wave of jealousy through me. Now it was just interesting. A footnote. His rapid engagement, after his role in blowing up my marriage, just cemented my belief that Sarah had chosen poorly, and I had, by extension, been spared. The final piece of news from Jake, however, brought a small, grim smile to my face. "And Olivia?" he typed. "Yeah, she got fired from the wildlife center. Apparently they found out about some unethical practices she was involved in, some shady stuff with donations or something. She's now working at some sketchy private zoo, like way out in the sticks. Heard it pays terribly and has 0 ethical standards." Karma's funny like that, I thought, echoing Jake's own words from earlier conversations. It was a notion I'd held onto in the dark days, a quiet hope that eventually everyone gets what they deserve. For Olivia, who had in her own small way contributed to the toxicity surrounding Sarah and Mark, this felt like a fitting retribution. She had thrived in chaos, in bending rules, and now she was relegated to a place with zero ethical standards. The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of justice. It wasn't about revenge, it was about balance. The thought brought a strange sense of closure, not malicious glee, but a calm affirmation that the world, despite its moments of darkness, still operated on principles of consequence. Staring out at the vibrant Dubai skyline, its futuristic towers reaching for the heavens, I felt a profound sense of peace settle over me. The past, with all its pain and betrayal, felt distant, almost like a story I had read, not lived. I was no longer defined by what had happened to me, but by what I had built from it. The lessons had been brutal, but the growth immense. I had learned the true meaning of resilience, the power of self-focus, and the unwavering value of true friendship. Jake, my steadfast brother from another mother, was going to visit me here soon, excited to see my new life and explore Dubai. The thought filled me with warmth. Tomorrow I would embark on the biggest professional challenge of my life, a project that would test my skills and push my limits, a challenge I was now fully equipped to meet. This weekend, I had another date with Amelia, and the thought of her witty conversation and captivating presence filled me with genuine anticipation. My heart, once shattered, was slowly, carefully, piecing itself back together, not into its old shape, but into something new, stronger, and more resilient. The road had been arduous, but it had led me to this place, to this moment, to this profound sense of peace. The universe, it seemed, had orchestrated a brutal lesson, but also a magnificent reward. I was here, whole again, building a new life, brick by beautiful brick, under the vast open sky of a hopeful future. I was here, whole again, building a new life, brick by beautiful brick, under the vast open sky of a hopeful future. The days in Dubai now flowed with a purposeful rhythm. My work on the skyscraper project was exhilarating, pushing my intellectual boundaries and reminding me of the immense satisfaction found in creating something tangible and strong. Every beam placed, every calculation validated, felt like another piece of my own life being meticulously rebuilt. The challenges were immense, but I met them head-on with a clarity and focus I hadn't possessed before. This was my expertise, my passion, and in its complex demands, I found profound solace and validation. My relationship with Amelia continued to blossom. She wasn't just beautiful and brilliant, she was kind, authentic, and possessed a quiet strength that I deeply admired. Our dates evolved from formal dinners to spontaneous explorations of Dubai's hidden corners, shared hikes in the desert, and evenings spent simply talking for hours, lost in conversation. There was a lightness to our connection, a mutual respect and genuine enjoyment of each other's company that felt both natural and profound. She was a breath of fresh air, a living testament to the fact that new, wonderful things could indeed grow from the ashes of old pain. We weren't rushing anything, just allowing our connection to develop organically, built on honesty and shared laughter. Just last week, Jake had arrived. Seeing his familiar face at the airport, a wide grin spreading across it, was a moment of pure joy. He was more than a best friend, he was family, the brother I'd chosen, who had stood by me through the darkest chapter of my life. He spent a week exploring Dubai with me, marveling at the city's ambition and meeting Amelia. He approved wholeheartedly, offering a subtle nod and a knowing wink that spoke volumes. "Good for you, Alex," he'd said quietly one evening, as we watched the sunset from my balcony. "Really good." His affirmation meant the world. As I stood on my balcony now, the city lights twinkling below like a scattered galaxy, a profound sense of peace settled over me. It wasn't a fragile, temporary peace, but a deep, settled contentment that permeated every fiber of my being. Looking back, the journey had been brutal. The shock of Sarah's betrayal, the gut-wrenching pain, the months of emotional limbo. It had felt like an endless dark tunnel. There were days I thought I wouldn't make it out. Days when the grief threatened to consume me whole. But I had. I remembered Jake's persistent encouragement to hit the gym, to focus on myself. And those anonymous voices on Reddit, the countless comments urging me to prioritize my well-being, to channel the anger into self-improvement. They were right. Absolutely, fundamentally right. The physical transformation was just a mirror of the internal one. The discipline, the focus, the strength I built in the gym translated directly into my ability to rebuild my life, my career, and my emotional resilience. It taught me that even when external circumstances are beyond your control, you always have agency over your own response, your own growth. Sometimes, the worst things that happen to you aren't the end, but the beginning of something truly incredible. This wasn't a cliché, it was my lived truth. Sarah's betrayal, while devastating, had acted as a brutal catalyst. It had forced me to confront uncomfortable truths, to reevaluate my priorities, and to discover an inner strength I never knew I possessed. It led me to Dubai, to the biggest project of my career, to new friendships, and to Amelia. It pushed me to become a better, stronger, more authentic version of myself. To everyone who followed this crazy story, whether through my initial desperate posts or Jake's updates, thank you for the support. Your collective encouragement, your tough love, your shared experiences offered a lifeline when I felt adrift. And a special shout-out, truly, to everyone who told me to hit the gym and focus on myself. You nailed it. That simple, consistent advice became the cornerstone of my recovery. And Sarah, if you're somehow reading this, still lurking on my throwaway Reddit account, I honestly hope you figure your stuff out. I truly do wish you peace and healing. I know you're in therapy, trying to make amends, trying to find your way. But my chapter with you is closed. The book of us was abruptly, painfully finished. My story, however, continues, and it's a good one. It's a story of resilience, of rebuilding, of finding joy and purpose again. It's a story of learning that even when the foundations are shattered, you can always build something new, something stronger, something that truly stands the test of time.